Good morning, Europe, and good afternoon, Southeast Asia. Welcome to our webinar entitled Brand Protection in Vietnam and How to Develop a Successful IP Strategy. This webinar is organized in collaboration with the Southeast Asia IPRSME Helpdesk project and the Portuguese-Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce. My name is Nora. I'm the project manager for the Southeast Asia IPRSME Helpdesk, and I will be today's webinar moderator. Joining me shortly will be Sergio Silva, chairman of the Portuguese-Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, and our IP business advisor, Dr. Marta Bettinazzi. But before we hear from them, let's make sure that we all have a good understanding how the webinar platform works. So throughout today's presentation, we are looking forward to a lively discussion. So please type in any questions or comments in the question box on your panel screen, and we will be answering the questions live during the Q&A session of the webinar. Today's webinar is an interactive webinar. We will be launching poll questions during the presentation, so please stay engaged and also answer our poll questions. And please keep in mind that today's webinar is recorded and it will be available on our website under the webinar sections a few days after the webinar. So let's take a quick look at the agenda. So first, I will give you a very quick introduction to the IPR Helpdesk services. Then Mr. Sergio Silva from the Portuguese-Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, he will introduce you to the chamber and give a few welcome remarks. And then we will pass to Marta's presentation on how to protect your brand in Vietnam, and we will wrap up the webinar with a live Q&A session. So about the Southeast Asia IPRSME Helpdesk, the Helpdesk is an initiative of the European Commission to support small and medium-sized enterprises to protect and enforce their intellectual property rights in or relation to Southeast Asia. All our services are free of charge. How can we help you? If you have any IP questions, you can contact us through the inquiry helpline and receive a free of charge answer within 3 working days by email, phone consultation, or also we can meet you in our Vietnam office. We also offer guides and fact sheets on our website. These publications, you can download it directly from the website. We have industry-specific guides or general IP type of guides, and also country fact sheets. For example, we have an IP fact sheet on Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore. We cover all 10 ASEAN countries. We organize trainings on-site and online. On-site trainings take place in Europe or in Southeast Asia, and webinars are almost every week or every second week. So stay connected with us so you will hear about our upcoming sessions as well. And last but not least, we also offer interactive learning tools, for example, e-learning modules that you can also check on our website. So now moving forward, I would like to pass the floor to our first speaker, Mr. Sergio.
Thank you, Nora. Good morning, Portugal, and good morning, all another attendees. Also, good afternoon, Nora and Marta. First of all, thank you very much to make this event happen. You ladies are doing excellent work along these years, cooperating with the Eurocham, with all chambers of commerce. Since we have some Portuguese fellows, excuse myself to speak a little bit Portuguese to be more warm, to talk about 3 notes, very important notes for Portuguese companies. Bom dia a todos, espero que seja webinar muito interessante. Nós estamos aqui no Vietnã, temos escritório também em Portugal. A nossa missão é ajudar as empresas portuguesas a fazerem comércio no Vietnã. O mercado do Vietnã após o Covid-19 vai mexer, já está a mexer. A necessidade das empresas portuguesas em se posicionarem no mercado é bastante importante neste momento, devido à implementação do IVFTA a 20 de maio, portanto estamos a falar de 8 dias. Este vai ser ratificado na Assembleia do Povo no Vietnã e este serviço, oferta da Comunidade Europeia, é bastante importante, que é um serviço gratuito em que pode ser utilizado pelos membros e não membros da Câmara e há de ser uma ferramenta extremamente importante para implementarem e para se protegerem quando entram aqui no mercado vietnamita. Nós temos equipa que vos possa ajudar, somos todos portugueses e vietnamitas que falam português também e estamos disponíveis para vos apoiar a internacionalizar neste mercado. Nora and Marta, I just made a recap about to explain how is important the IP tools that your program is providing free of charge to the Portuguese companies in this case. The importance that post-COVID-19 the Vietnamese market will be pop up, and is very, very important to understand how the Portuguese companies can enter in the market protected, since the EVFTA will be ratified in coming 8 days, and is one more tool for the Portuguese come to Vietnam. I pass the floor to Marta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you for this very personal introduction as well. And now let's look into the IP part of the presentation, and then at the end we can discuss again during the Q&A session. So Marta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nora, and thank you, Sergio, for the super nice introduction. Today we are going to discuss some peculiarities of the Vietnamese protection of IP, and we will try to look in deep on how to design a strategy that can be effective for Vietnam. But before we start, I have a question for you, which is, please look at the picture on the right and guess where this product is produced. We will open the poll question now, and you can vote. Please express your preferences, and then we will come back for the results. You have more or less 30 seconds, 1 minute. You can vote simply clicking on the answer you like on the pop-up poll screen that you should see now. Let's say you have another 5 seconds, 10 to answer. And I think now we can close the poll and show the results. As you can see, there is an equal split between Spain and China. It's nice that always China comes out when we discuss plausible fakes. But this time, I'm also noticing that someone is voting Portugal, which is nice from time to time. But now I can go back to my presentation and give you the real answer, which is made in Vietnam. This is my picture of the label I did on the supermarket, and you can see the name of the Vietnamese producer and a little bit more of information. What happened and what we can learn from this experience? It happened that for many, many years, sangria has been imported into Vietnam, but no one registered the trademark for something sangria, because we will, as European, will never register sangria as a trademark, because for us it's generic. But then this Vietnamese company noticed that this product were popular, etc., and they decided to file an application. And their application actually includes the name sangria, even if it's generic. And this will lead, if this application is accepted, which for the moment is pending, is not, is that the Vietnamese company could block a Spanish company or any other company to import sangria to Vietnam. So this is a case that was actually brought to the help desk, and what we suggested is that they try to oppose the registration, saying it is generic, as in bad faith. And moreover, we contact the Spanish representatives to try to register sangria as a geographical indication, because this will make this application for a trademark an infringement of the GI and could be saved, because, as you know, GI, geographical indication, can be used only by producers that produce in a certain area. So this was a very interesting case, because it shows you how much the population is aware of the products and try to capitalize on other people IP. But let's see another case. Look at the picture, the Superman Choco Milk Wafer, and please answer our question that is going to be launched now. What is this? Is a new promotional material for the new Superman animated series, a copyright infringement, or a legitimate usage of a trademark in the Indonesian market? Please vote. You have more or less 1 minute. So again, there is the Superman chocolate, and I'm asking you what happened, or what's your guess? What was going on there? Okay, I give you another 10 seconds to make up your mind and I think of an answer. Okay, I think now we can close the poll and show the results. I see that many of you are familiar with the concept of a copyright infringement, but some of you have suspects around the Indonesians. And you're right, actually. Let me show you continue with my presentation. It's a legal usage of this Superman trademark that has been registered in Indonesia by an Indonesian company. This is a food producer that is based in Surabaya in Indonesia, and they registered in 1993 the trademark Superman for brand for food. At the time, the DC company was not trying to register, and from what I know, was not even using their trademark or copyrights there. DC Comics in 2018 tried to file a lawsuit against this Indonesian company, and they lost. They lost in the Central Jakarta Commercial Court, and they lost again in appeal. Why? Because the argument of the court was that Maxim Marxiring registration was completely correct from a formal perspective, and there was no the Superman trademark was not registered in Indonesia by DC and was not famous enough. I know that in the slides is Batman. I know the difference, just to you to know. So what we can learn from this is what can happen if you don't protect your intellectual property in Southeast Asia. To use the word of the head of the Indonesia Institute of Science, if the real brand holders forget to register the trademark in other countries, it's not impossible for someone else to register the same brand in Indonesia. In other words, if you don't register yourself, they will do it for you. And this is exactly the same in Vietnam, at least from a theoretical point of view. So watch out. How you can avoid this? You can avoid this, first of all, you have to understand what are your rights. Then you have to learn how to complete a registration, register as soon as possible, and monitor for the market for infringements. This is something you can do by yourself, you can do with our help, or you can do it with the help of the lawyer, especially the registration, because that we cannot do for you. But first of all, the things you have to do is to sit down and think about your product. Chances are that you first of all have a trademark, which means your logo, your brand, but it can also be more peculiar stuff, like the startup tune of an app. The Nokia tune is a trademark, you know, that famous. I will not attempt to do the melody, but you get me. Scents and colors can also be eventually registered as trademarks. Patents is what protects inventions, but this can be a thing, but it can also be a process. It can be an operating system. It can be even a software under certain conditions. Copyright protects pictures, decoration softwares, and other kind of creation of the minds. The idea is that if you have an artistic work, you will go for copyright, but this also can include your logo that can be registered as trademark, but also as copyright. Industrial design is the shape, the elegant shape of a product. Think about Italian Mocha or Vespa as an example, and this is a very good way to protect your peculiar appearance from the copycats, simply copying your design. And the last step on a very good IP strategy is protect your trade secret, which means be very, very careful of what you share and with whom. So this is just a short introduction. We are going to focus today on trademarks, but please don't forget that a complete IP strategy is still the best idea, even if trademarks are the easiest thing to protect and the easiest thing to copy. So what's a trademark? A trademark is a sign that identifies and distinguishes in the marketplace your product from the one from someone else. It can be a goods or a service, so it can be a thing or the kind of service you do, like, I don't know, online teaching is a service. Your book is a thing. The sign must be capable of distinguish the product. This also means that you cannot use a trademark which is is not distinctive. For example, Apple, it's a very good trademark for computer, or it was, because now it's taken, but it's not a good trademark for a fruit juice company. There are rules that you have to keep in mind when you try to design your trademark. For example, that you cannot include flags, you cannot include names, geographical names most of the time cannot be part of a trademark. I mean, they could be part of your name, but they are not going to be protected as a trademark. And of course, everything that is misleading is pretending to be something you are not. For example, using the adjective green when you are not a green company. That's considered misleading. And you cannot describe the product. You cannot have producing lamps and call yourself good lamps. That's not something that is going to happen. Example of a trademark. A trademark can be just words, letters, and numbers, but can also include in the registration the colors, Google. So Google is not just protected as a name, it's protected also as this combination of colors. Just the logo, we will see, Hello Kitty, or a mix between logos and words. What you have to keep in mind in this kind of situation is that what you are protecting is your exclusive right to use a certain word or a certain combination of colors or a certain image. This means that no one should copy you or take too much inspiration. The idea is that the consumer has to be able to distinguish your product from the one of the other companies. So if someone is copying your logo, you have to understand if he's copying enough to confuse the consumers. And now we play another game, because I say that many things can be registered as a trademark. And so now I'm asking you, can this, talking about the blue, can be registered or not? We launch the poll now. And yeah, please vote. Okay, you still have 30 seconds if you want to vote. This is a simple question. No or yes? Okay, you have another 10 seconds. Look at it. Does it look familiar, that blue? Okay, so I think now we can show the results. You are very much for the no. It's a big 80%. But now we go back to my presentation and I show you the results. It is registered. Because colors, not in under every jurisdiction, but in many jurisdictions, it's possible to register them. For the moment, it's actually not possible in Vietnam to register just the color, but it's plausible that with the new FTA changes, with the changes done due to the Pacific Treaty, there will be an extension to the kind of trademarks you can use, but this is the Blue Tiffany. We need more girls on our webinars. Moving on, let's go a little bit into practical steps, because I think I scared you enough by now, and you are convinced you want to register your trademark. So what you should do? First of all, you should run a search for existing trademarks, which means I have a brilliant idea, a wonderful name. Let's check if it's free. Because if someone has a similar trademark for the same category or a similar category of good, you could end up infringing their trademark. Then you have to file the application. The Intellectual Property Office of Vietnam is based in Hanoi, but there are also Da Nang and Ho Chi Minh City offices where you can file your application. Please keep in mind that all the documents of the application must be in Vietnamese. So either you find a translator or you have to speak Vietnamese. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that you need an address in Vietnam. So either you are based here, or you have a legal representative here, or you have a lawyer, or you have an officer that is doing this for you. Otherwise, you cannot actually file the application. After the filing, there is 1 month, more or less, for formal examination. They will go through your application to see that everything is okay. And then it is going to be published for 2 months. And this is going to be the moment where other people can actually oppose the trademark. And then it should be examined in 9 months. And so this, if you add up, goes more or less in 1 year, but the reality is that due to a severe backlog, it goes more around 2 years. So at the end of the day, if you are still based in Portugal and you don't have an office here, you need a local agent or a lawyer. If you are based here, you can do it by yourself. We usually recommend to contact a lawyer anyway, but then it's a choice. What are the fees? The basic fees are very, very low, because it's 54 euros, more or less, for registering in one class and up to 6 gods. goods or services. If you want to register for more than one class, for example, a class is clothing, but you want to register also for food, or you want to register for food and not for clothing, etc. Or you want to register also for selling, for example, for franchise. It's a service in that case. So in this case, the money adds up a little bit, but as you can see, are still quite low. And of course, if you're claiming priority, meaning you are claiming that you have filed your application in Portugal less than 6 months before you're filing in Vietnam. I'm saying Portugal because I'm assuming that most of the people here are Portuguese, but it works exactly the same way with all the European countries and also half of the world, because the Paris Convention is well spread. In this case, you have to pay 24 euros more, and you will have your trademark register in the same, as it has been filed in the same day in Vietnam and Europe. And now I have another question for you, because if you are in the international business, this is something that probably you have heard of. What is an international trademark? And eventually, if you have one. Okay, you still have another 20 seconds to vote. I have the time to drink while you vote. That's why we have so many poll questions. Okay, I think now we can show the results. So I see that there is a strong majority for a trademark that is protected in the member of a treaty, which is not completely wrong. But let's see how. Back to my presentation. The reality is that a trademark as an international trademark per se, it does not exist. What is exist, what it was more or less corresponding to the last answer, is the Madrid system, which is an international treaty that helps you registering and managing trademarks worldwide. What does it mean? It means that if you have a registration already in Portugal and you are planning to expand, for example, in Vietnam, and in Malaysia and in Indonesia, etc., instead of filing a national application in all this country, have to have a local representative, have to have a local address, and pay for a lawyer in every country, you will pay. You will go to your national office and ask for an international application. Then you pick up the countries you want to expand to, and then this will automatically be transmitted to the receiving office. However, you still have to choose which country you have to cover, and it's still possible that the receiving office will oppose the registration for many reasons. Most of the time it's because there is a conflicting trademark. So it's not automatic, and is not a miracle, and is not an international trademark protected everywhere. So please be very careful, because I see that especially for the people that covers the export, this kind of things are a little bit mysterious. So please remember that a trademark is strictly national, and it needs to be registered in every country. As I said, there is the Madrid system that helps you in doing this, but at the end of the day, what you end up is with a number of national registration. This also is the same, more or less the same for other kinds of IP as a rule. But okay, you are scared, you are registering your trademark, but then what you can do after you register it? The idea is that after you have secured your own IP, you can start a partnership with local companies. Because I see that many of you have already based here and probably are already in a joint venture of some kind, but you have to be very, very careful, because local companies tend to register, for example, your distributor can register your trademark for themselves, and you will end up being bounded to a contract of an exclusive distribution that is not really what you want. So either if you are trying to license or to franchise your IP for satisfy the market demand of your product, you have to be careful and write your contract very, very clearly. It's important that you consider this as a way to make a revenue as out of your IP, because this person are going to pay you, and on top of this you will be more renewed on the market. So it's a very convenient thing, but it has to be done safely. Merchandising, so selling, for example, the rights of use your logo on t-shirts, and joint ventures, especially in Vietnam and other Southeast Asia countries, are very valuable ways to exploit your IP, again, with being careful. And also, as a practical tip that doesn't really only covers intellectual property, is that you have to remember to write your contracts in Vietnamese, or at least in double copy and with an original in Vietnamese, because the court is in most cases not speaking a good English. So they will base the decision on the documents in Vietnamese. Transfer of technologies, and for some cases also of IP licensing, you have to register your contract with the office I mentioned before. It's IP Vietnam, it's the same office. Otherwise, you cannot enforce them. So be very careful, because there are great partners, but there are also not so nice ones. So you have to be prepared. This is a case, which is a real case, and I want you to have a look at it, even if it's a little bit long, but it's for you to understand what can happen if you enter in a license without protecting yourself enough. This European company entered in an exclusive license with a Vietnamese seller, and they have the right, the local have the right to use the trademark for the Europeans. However, the local outlet was unfaithful, because they were also selling other kind of clothes, and they also were not selling enough clothes. When the European company wanted to suit the national one, the Vietnamese one, they discovered that despite the fact that the European had a trademark registered, they only had for the goods, for the clothes product. But the local company has the same trademark for the retail services. This means that despite having a trademark registered, the European company cannot enter any new license agreement, because no one can sell under that trademark, because it's owned by the Vietnamese company. At the end of the day, they decide to start a litigation, but it was not successful, or better to say, they preferred them to mediate, because it was saving a lot of time. And the European boutique has to pay the Vietnamese to get back their own trademark, also for the registration for the retail services. What we can learn is that when you enter in a contract, you have to be very, very careful on where the IP is, to whom the IP are assigned. Be more than sure that you have registered in all the relevant classes, and because, as I say, trademark claiming a trademark back can be expensive and requires a lot of time. I have one last question, I think it's the last one, for you to introduce you to a new topic. So we start now a new poll question. And this regards the registration of the Instagram domain in the Philippines. And you can vote. Because the question is who have registered the instagram.com.ph and instagram.ph, so the Philippines extension of the domain name of Instagram. I think everyone knows Instagram. So please vote. Okay, you have another, I would say, 10 seconds to vote, to make up your mind. Okay, I think we can now close the poll and show the results. It's interesting how we all blame Chinese. It's a very interesting sociological thing. So I see that many of you thought about a Philippine company, probably learning from the Indonesia question from before, and some of you are voting for the Instagram mother company. Let me show you the real answer, which is a Korean citizen. It's not always the Chinese. This lady is actually famous. This case I got from the WIPO website. That it's an arbitration institution. In this case, they were working as an arbitration place. And this woman is apparently very, very famous for I think you lost me for some seconds. I don't know how long. I hope I'm back now. I'm back, okay. Sorry, what I was saying, this miss was famous to register other people's trademark as a domain name in the Philippines. They were about to reach an agreement, but at the end of the day, the woman was not willing to transfer the domain name. There was some discussion about the price, you know, usual stuff. At the end of the day, WIPO can assign directly the domain name, and it's what happened. The point is that this procedure is not free. So Instagram has definitely to pay something for that. So let's dig a little bit in domain name, because I think now every one of us has also online activity, especially during COVID. So we have to be careful and protect also this side of our IP. Is what a domain name in very few words is what identify you on the internet. Of course, now with the fact that we have search integrated in the browser, it's not necessary to memorize address anymore, but it's still better to keep it short and avoid too complex name. It's better to use your trademark as a domain name. Think about Google. But it's also possible to protect your domain name as a trademark. So let's assume you have a different trademark and domain name, and then you decide to register as a trademark also the domain name. You can opt for generic generic domain names like com, net, org, info, etc. But as the very nice story about Instagram teaches us, if you don't register the local extension, so the .vn in the case of Vietnam, or .com.vn, you will end up with someone doing this for you. It's called cyber squatting. It's a very remunerative business if you want to enter one, but it's not nice to be a victim of it. Just to give you some data regarding Vietnam, there is the Vietnam Internet Network Information Center that is in charge of the management of the domain names, but of course the registration is done through some registrants, which are private people. It's not even very expensive. In the Philippines, as I showed you before, the responsibility this kind of disputes, so the domain name conflicts, are solved in front of WIPO, while in Vietnam there is an administrative procedure in front of the national authority. Basically what they use is the same regulation that is accepted on the international standard. So if a domain name is identical, often confuses, similar to the domain name of another company, and it has been done in bad faith, the registration and the usage has been done in bad faith. Actually, the law in Vietnam talks about unhealthy competition purpose, but at the end of the day is a bona fide question. The idea is that you cannot use someone else's trademark or someone else's name to mislead the consumers or to ruin this person's reputation. We are going to see another case, but there were very famous cases of, I think it was the Mercedes domain name that was registered by someone selling another kind of auto. So this kind of things can happen. Let's see a short case study regarding Vietnam. This is about a very famous brand, I think. It's a German company that produce lamps. What happened was that the domain name .com.vn and .vn has been registered by someone that is not the owner of the trademark. And there was a lawsuit actually in front of a proper court, not in front of the administrative action. The domain names has been revoked, and the defendant, so the person that has registered the domain name, has been condemned to refund the expenses for the lawyer, but not really to pay any damages. But he was obliged to make a public apology, so it's an interesting story. So at the end of the day, domain names, as much as trademarks, are registered on a first-to-file basis, and it's not uncommon that domain names based on famous trademark are registered by local company or retailers. You can, however, as we have seen, actually defend your domain name, and it's up to you, however, to check and to understand what's happening. So with this, I will go to the wrap-up of the message of this presentation. Intellectual property is an asset. It helps building your reputation, strengthening your position on the market, and attract investors. You can license the use, the distribution, or the manufacturing of your product under a distribution agreement. And at the end of the day, intellectual property is money, is not just something you pay for, but is also something that can make you a revenue. But you have to be careful and be prepared, as I show you. Registration is always less expensive than litigation. This, please, if there is only one thing you have to remember about this presentation, except for the beautiful color, is that registration is always less expensive than litigation. Register, and then we can start discussing. And with this, we open the floor to the questions. So please leave your question for us, and we will start reading them.
Thank you very much, Marta, for this insightful presentation. And now we arrive to the Q&A session. So I would like to encourage participants that they are still not too late to send any questions, so we can discuss it in live if you have any questions. And I also would like to ask if Sergio, you are still here with us, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, great. So maybe we can just first start with you. That I don't know if there is any generic tips or reminders that you would like to let a Portuguese company know how CCIPV could support them, and then we will see if there are further questions from the audience.
Sure, definitely your essay was very clear. It's quite difficult to ask something because the explanation is so clear, like water is quite difficult. We have some Portuguese that made some questions in the board that we are willing to answer. For example, one of that is how CCIPV can help SMEs. Well, this is the mission of the CCIPV the mission is to support all Portuguese businessmen and companies to enter in Vietnamese market. Of course, the panorama of Portuguese companies are very different, and the chamber is a private organization, works under the fees that we charge from our service. We are not government agency or institute. We are completely private organization. And all support that CCIPV can do in terms of SMEs to enter in Vietnam is what they need, or to establish a company, for example, in Vietnam. Always the steps that they need, which type of the constraints that they can forecast to establish this company. All this type of assessment and advice, CCIPV are very willing to help. Also, CCIPV support already some Portuguese companies to sell their products in Vietnam, helping them to understand the Vietnamese market, the behavior of the consumer in Vietnam. And we provide some studies and research, sometimes tailor-made for the Portuguese companies. And the big asset that the Chamber has in Vietnam is we are in Vietnam. We are Portuguese, living in Vietnam more than 10 years. We understand the market. We deal every day with the market. We speak the Vietnamese language. We can reach the Vietnamese. And we are here. That is quite important when we want to do business face to face, especially in Asian markets. That is, the face is quite important. I have also a question that is regard if we need a Portuguese company need a lawyer to establish a Vietnamese company. No need a lawyer. As different as in Portugal, we have a type of mechanism that we call empresa na hora, means we have a branch of the government agency that we can go there and take all documents and we can establish a company in 1 hour. Vietnam doesn't have this kind of facility. However, we don't need a lawyer to establish a company. It's not necessary. That means if we understand Vietnamese, or we can hire also the Portuguese chamber, and we can support our associates to establish a company in Vietnam. We know to do steps, all steps necessary to establish a company, how to create a company, etc., etc. In terms of structure of the companies, they are similar as Portugal. You buy shares, or you can establish a company with shares, or a joint structure company. However, the structure is similar as Portugal, and it's pretty easy to establish a Vietnamese company in Vietnam. I don't know, Nora, if you would like to make some questions as well.
Thank you, Sergio. I think this was a very good explanation, and I think it's good for our webinar attendees to understand how CCIPV can help them. And I would just probably add that one of the reasons why we collaborated for this webinar is because the IPR Helpdesk project is also providing free of charge services, and I think that it's great also that our multipliers, stakeholders can increase the awareness of this project among their SMEs to let them introduce to other free tools which can support them in the future if they need any advice with regards to intellectual property rights. I would like to ask one question from Marta. Actually, this question we received it before the webinar. So if an IP owner in Southeast Asia invested in their IP portfolio, for example, or owning a patent or a trademark, but eventually this IP was infringed, what kind of lessons we learn through these experiences, and what kind of advice we can give to companies to encourage them that it's indeed very important to register and they can avoid problems in the future?
So yeah, it's a very interesting question, because of course it's not easy to answer without knowing in the details how the registration has been done, if it has been done properly in Vietnam, etc. On a general level, what you should remember is that if you have registered your IP also in Vietnam, you have some protection. There are three main routes for enforcement here: administrative action, civil action, and criminal procedure. However, we usually recommend to contact a lawyer and have them sending cease and desist letters, because this kind of very easy, in a way, and cheap solution is most of the time good enough. And if the infringement doesn't stop, then okay, you are entitled to defend yourself. What you still have to remember, however, is that you have to have registered your trademark here or your patent here. If you just have your right registered in Europe, is not enough. And sadly, things like well-known trademark that enjoy, or de facto trademark that enjoy some protection in Europe, are not recognized here. So even it's absurd, but even IKEA had to fight for their own trademark in Indonesia, because according to the Indonesian court, IKEA was not a famous trademark. So yeah, you have to register properly, but if you do, there are enforcement options. And if you have in mind your specific case and you want to discuss more, please don't hesitate to write an email to us. We will give you all the advice you could need.
Okay, thank you very much, Marta, for the explanation. And I just see another question which came in this minute, so I will read it for you. In this case of the Instagram logo, we had a lady that registered Instagram logo in Indonesia, and it was not possible to take the advantage of the original date of the first registration in a different country, because the Paris Convention gives you the possibility that in the next 6 months of the registration in the origin of country, you can still register your trademark in different countries. Sorry, did you understand me?
Yes, because I'm reading.
Okay. Okay.
So thank you for this very interesting question. First of all, regarding that case in particular, it was not the Instagram logo, it was the Instagram website. So basically what this nice Korean woman has done is that if you try to look on Google for instagram.ph, so for the Philippines, you end up on her website instead of the original one. Regarding, however, the second part of your question, you are right. It's possible to use the right of priority in 6 months from the Paris Convention. But this case in particular, even if, okay, we were discussing different things, but let's assume she tried to register the trademark. It was after the 6 months. So these kind of things can only be done exactly within 6 months. If you did not register within 6 months, you can still register your trademark. It's going to be protected, but it's not going to be retroactive to the moment of the first registration, only to the moment of the national registration. So again, to clarify, that woman was not registering the trademark or the logo of Instagram. I put the logo to make it clear what we are talking about. She was registering the domain name because apparently Instagram was not ready to enter the Filipino market at the beginning, so they didn't register the domain name immediately, and someone was faster than them. And by the way, this was not the only case. As I show you, the lady was usually doing this, so she did too many brands, because registering the trademark and registering the domain name are not the same procedure. You go in front of two different kind of institutions, and you have to do it separately as soon as possible, but it's a separate procedure. But yes, both Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam, basically every country in the world is part of the Paris Convention. Yeah, that's it. I hope it's clear enough, because I see that you say Instagram logo in Indonesia, but it was in the Philippines. So if you have more questions regarding the Indonesia situation, please let us know or send us an email. Nora, do we have any other question?
Yeah, there is one more question that was asked actually just before the webinar. That's a company manufacturing expanded cord for thermal and acoustical solutions, mainly for green buildings. The company was mentioning that they are very open to work with their own brand, but also it's a possibility to create a brand with their local partner. What is your view? What is your view on that?
So my idea is that if you want to use your original trademark because you want to capitalize on the fact that you have a reputation, and is not a bad idea, you have to be very, very careful and write down the license with the local partner or the local distributor, because you will need one probably. Being careful and saying that this is your name, it belongs to you, they cannot register it for you, and you also have to register for yourself. On the other hand, if you decide to go for a joint venture with a different logo and a different name, you can do this. You are probably going to lose part of your reputation because it's not connected anymore with your previous activity in Europe or in whatever other country. But also in this case, you have to be careful, because if you are doing a joint venture, you have also to always to think what will happen when the joint venture ends. Who is going to keep the rights on the name? Because this can lead to very many problems when the situation deteriorates, especially if you are not the majority in the joint venture, which in some sectors in Vietnam is still mandatory to be. If you are a Western or not a Vietnamese, you cannot have the majority in a company. So please be careful and decide what's better for your reputation and to get more revenue out of it. I think using your trademark, if you register it properly in Vietnam, it's safe. It's still a safe option. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marta. And I think with this, we will wrap up the webinar. So I would like to thank you for our speakers for joining today, and for our dear participants to be attentive, and also for asking questions. Sergio, if you have any specific remarks or any message that you would like to convey to the participants, please feel free to.
Yes, I do. Less than 1 minute. Let me also introduce Henrique Romão. Is our colleague in the chamber. He's here also in the webinar, and he has one very short message to give to our Portuguese companies.
Yeah. First of all, just let me quickly say thank you very much for everyone participating here, And we would like to offer to the presents, the one that are still alive at the webinar, and are interested in the Vietnamese market, our 30 minutes as promised of free consultancy, so we can discuss any interests or opportunities you may have. Now, quickly in Portuguese, gostaríamos de oferecer aos presentes aqui no webinar que estejam interessados no mercado de Vietnã 30 minutos de consultoria gratuita. Eu pus o meu e-mail no meu nome, agromão@ccipv.com. Por isso, caso tenham interesse de tirar esta oportunidade com a Câmara, teríamos todo o gosto em conversar convosco e esperarei por um e-mail vosso. Muito obrigado. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marta. Thank you very much, Nora. And thank you very much to the Southeast Asia IPR SME Helpdesk team. And we hope to see all each other again soon enough.
Thank you for being here, really.
Thank you very much, Henrik, for this message. I'm sure that our participants appreciate and that will also establish some new connections for CCIPV. And one more remark from our end is that on the 20th of May, we will be organizing a webinar on e-commerce in Malaysia. So if you are interested to attend, please feel free to subscribe, and we would be happy to see you again on upcoming webinars. And with this, I wish you all a nice morning or nice afternoon, and stay safe and healthy during this special period. And I hope that you will find new opportunities in Vietnam, and then we can connect with each other again. And a warm thank you to Sergio and Henrik for collaborating with the Helpdesk for this webinar.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you too.
See you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.